Yo, Anton here with a bit of a quick talkie video this week. I do not have an alpha ready for you folks yet. I basically got super into early production work for stuff that we're going to be dropping this holiday season, getting a bunch of 3D artists sort of up to speed and parallelized for a bunch of things I need produced, as well as just dragging, working on a whole bunch of the firearms that are going to be coming in December. And I basically ran out of time and energy this week getting a bunch of the systems that I have torn apart for the next alpha cycle, namely the streamlined controls option that I've mentioned before, and the new sort of take and hold targets, and the character that's going to be, or two that are going to be coming with them. Just to give you a little bit of update with that, with the streamlined controls, I actually have them pretty much implemented for all held objects. The part that I'm working on now is that there's all of this extra sort of binding infrastructure in the game related to the way you can set up what your A and X buttons do in the standard controls, as well as all of the ways that the 7 locomotion modes and all of their different sort of sub-controls and options can use the 2-axis input versus the face buttons. And so I need to go in and very, very carefully make sure that in this different control paradigm, where the joysticks are always dedicated, but the A, B, X, Y buttons are always used for held objects, that everything works right. So I don't have that. That part has ended up taking a little more time than I thought it would, but once that's all put together, I'll be able to enable a testing mode for this control type in the work in progress section of the options panel, which that's the whole point of doing this next alpha cycle. So hopefully next Friday I will actually have that ready for you folks to test, which I'm sure those of you who just have a joystick and 2 buttons on each controller will enjoy that quite a bit. Take and hold target and character stuff continues to go well, but as I said, I tore things apart a little bit, and it's everything's broken at the moment. One change that that some of you might like to hear, that I am considering doing, is changing the default amount of time that you have to destroy all of the targets in a given hold from 60 to 120 seconds, and basically moving the two cutoffs where you hear, there are 2 sort of vocal warnings you hear that you're running out of time, one at 30 seconds, one at 15, and I'm going to shift and move those to 60 and 30 seconds. As I watched a bunch more gameplay of folks playing, and especially for those who are not using Smooth Loco, or even who are just using Arm Swinger, with some of the more intense and spammy and sort of boss-oriented waves, I've noticed that a lot of folks are feeling maybe a little more time pressure to get the targets and take too risky of maneuvers. And so, yeah, so I'm not going to change anything about the amounts of things that spawn. I'm just going to give you a little more breathing room for running out of time, in the hopes that that gives people more, basically, space to act more tactically and intelligently, instead of having to gamble with super risky maneuvers constantly with some of the harder holds and harder waves. Yeah, so hopefully should make that a little more skill, a little bit less luck-based for dealing with that and getting a high score. So yeah, oh, and then holiday stuff, which is the big thing that I'm working on. I mentioned this either in the roadmap or in maybe in last devlog. It all just blurs together. But I've been trying to figure out the smartest way to handle doing an advent calendar this year. Which is something, for those of you who have been with us for years with this project know what I'm talking about. But for those who don't, basically the first year that H3 did holiday stuff, that we were around, and then 2 years after that, we did a holiday advent calendar, where every single day in December up till Meatmas Day, you could log in starting basically at 1 in the morning Pacific time on that given day, and check out a new goodie, basically. And this used to be easier to execute than it is now for a number of reasons. The first is that the first year that I did this, I didn't really have like a unified object database system. There weren't that many guns in the game. And so between the way that Steam's like update, upload, download, delta-ing system, where it only serves you sort of new data worked, and the way the project was structured, I could make these very, very tiny updates, and it only took me like, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes max to push a build out of Unity to do that small update. H3 has grown a lot since then, so there's now like 400 plus firearms in these heavily compressed bundles, and it takes just the, like, after the bundles are all built, just the build cycle time on the game now is over an hour. And so for me to go end to end with a full build cycle at this point, including testing it, it's like 5 to 6 hours, which is not really tenable to do every single day for a month. I'd lose my mind. I almost did last Advent calendar, and it wasn't this bad. So what I've come up with is a sort of hybrid approach. And I'll reiterate all of this in a more structured way when time is closer. But the idea is that on Fridays in December, there will be a standard update as you would expect, where things get added into the item spawner and the object database for the game. But for all of the other days other than Friday, there's going to be a push to a branch that's just going to be called Meatmas 2020, where the new toys will be available only in the Meatmas scene. This allows me, I'm essentially not going to add them into the game's item spawner object database yet, so that I can push them sort of embedded in the scene, which is a much faster upload. It's a much faster build cycle for me. It means you won't be able to spawn lock mags from them during the week there, and you will only be able to use them in the holiday scene, but it allows me to get that daily content out to you folks in a way that I can preserve my sanity and actually have time to do anything else during the month of December other than pushing these updates. So I think it's a happy medium, and it will be accompanied by a little bit of a new format with the Advent calendar. It's going to be a little less, oh, I'm a new box, I'm going to walk over there and open it, and a little more gamey, but in a fun way. Trust me, this is not a Grunch Trolls You year. This is a fun gifts year. So I'm just putting a little more into it. Feels appropriate. So so that just so far that ends my ramble. I need to actually remember to breathe in between sentences. But yeah, so that should hopefully give you an idea what's going on. Once again, sorry I don't have an alpha for you folks this week. I just sort of I ran out of gas early yesterday and was like, there's no way I'm getting this together in a way that's going to be stable enough or done enough to actually be useful. And the purpose of the alpha branch at the end of the day is mainly so that I can field test systems safely with you folks. And I just was not quite ready for that. So, but next week I should be. So I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I will see y'all soon. Peace.